Hello, folks, and welcome to MotoGP Mac, where MotoGP fans congregate and fanboys fear to tread. This is our last one before the holidays, so I hope Santa brings you, grips and
helmets and jackets and bike gear,
jackets and helmets and
and everything. How was your week?
I'm too bad. I don't even get I'm so bad. I don't even get a coal. I just get a lump of dirt.
Dirt. It's not even worth a fucking lump of coal. Yeah, well, coal is useful,
Yeah, it costs a fortune.
Yeah. Anyway, so how's your week been?
Crappy.
So
I haven't been able to ride. In fact, I did today, though. I was cheated. I went out and I rode.
Good man, yourself.
Yes, I went out and I was riding, and I did a drag, a little drag race with I was on the touring scooter, the BT 400 Piaggio touring scooter. Thing's a mile long,
right?
But it's zippy thing, comfortable as all hell, heavy. Believe it or not, it's like a touring.
That makes you feel old when you say zippy.
It was a zippy.
Anyway.
Hey, it was quicker than the Harley 883 Sportster. Can you believe that?
Anything's quicker than a fucking
yeah. The guy was not happy, let me tell you. He was like, Arr.
To be fair. Anyway, let's start off with Mr. Mir. I was very happy to read his initial feedback. And now, I suppose I always take these kind of feedbacks with a pinch of salt, right? And I know people go, oh, there was wind or there was temperature, right? At the end of the day, they were doing a test just a couple of days after a Grand Prix had been on that track. And in my view, there was race rubber on that track. So the track
it didn't rain
was in a fairly decent position, condition. It wasn't super chilly cold. If you lived in fucking Ireland, you'd fucking understand, like a normal day is between 5 and 10 degrees. That's cold compared to where they were. But Mir was saying, and I take a lot of encouragement out of this, that he can start to feel the front end of that Yamaha, I nearly said, Honda, which is encouraging for Mir because we all know he's a front end rider, so he can start to feel that. Though they didn't get all they wanted to do done on the day, but he was happy enough with the pace. The bike is lighter, so he was saying that he can feel how much lighter the bike is, but it's a little bit wider, and of course it is because they're running the Aprilia type lower fairing cowls, so it would feel a little bit wider. And look, I took it as a good thing that he seemed positive. Okay, he was down 13th place, 7/10 of a second off the thing. Now we didn't really have a lap time to gauge him off, and because obviously he crashed out on the Friday and he didn't take part in the rest of the weekend, so you couldn't say where he was. And I know people like when I was comparing Marquez's lap on the Ducati versus the Honda, the only thing that you do have a gauge of is what he did on Saturday or what he did on Tuesday, right? Or what person did. So I know people then are making things, it was 3 degrees colder, or it's not the point. It is just a reference mark of there they are. That's the time they're getting down to, because like if you looked at Bezzecchi in testing, the last flying lap that Bezzecchi was doing, he was 2/10 up on Vinales through the first sector of his last flying lap. Do you know what I mean? And then he lost it, right? So, there was definitely time in that track. And overall, I think Vinales was like 0.4 of a second or 0.3 of a second off the pace of Saturday qualifying. So the track was at best 2 or 0.3 of a second slower than Saturday, but it's not much slower. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe it's now the riders have done 70 or 80 laps, they were fucking bait. But look, majority of the riders did do a a hot lap towards the end of their session. But saying that, look, I was happy to see what Mir said. I'm not necessarily a Honda fan, but again, I have a bit of respect for Honda in the fact that they're trying, and you can openly see that Honda are trying their best to get to where they need to be.
Somewhere.
Yeah, and look, like with Mir, you can see in his tests, okay, there was no difference in his last two runs. He didn't take a dramatic drop in time. He was still in the 130s, 131s, which is not bad pace to be fair to him. But it is encouraging to see Honda trying to understand the aero that they need to understand.
I would think now that Marquez is gone, that would make Honda try different directions. If you get my drift, it wouldn't concentrate so much on Marquez.
Mir did give us a little bit of a nugget though, when he was comparing the junk with the Hondas and whatever, and he was like, and he said, that the Japanese build the bikes high and short, and the Europeans build the bikes low and long.
Right.
And I think it's a really, really good aspect to start looking at the cornering and stuff like that. Is, maybe that is the direction, or maybe this is why Honda was not working when they moved to the rear bias bike, because the bike is just too short.
It would not, yes.
So
you're getting pretty basic there, but yes, it is true. The shorter it is, it's going to multiply.
Yeah. So, and then look, the aerodynamics. It is new to everyone it still is new to everyone, right? Regardless of Ducati, yes, they were one of the ones to first in this era, I suppose, use the wings to do that, but. Again, it's a minefield in regulations, because there's very few regulations around about the aero. And it is actually very plain, actually, is what I would say to you, in the regulations for the aero. And this is a dangerous point of aero, if you know what I mean, because if you don't have it regulated, things can do what they want. Do you know what I mean? And all of a sudden...
Well, you know how I feel about that. As long as they're in that box, you really can't do a hell of a lot. They're not. You can't.
True. Very, 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 very true. And look, that is like, once they're in, but there's a lot of unregulated areas on the bike. Is my point. So behind the seat, like, they can put a fucking proper T-wing up over the rider if they want, within the regulations, because there's no regulations towards the back end of the bike.
I thought the back end of the bike had something more like a mailbox size.
There is a slight regulation, but it's not. It would not be as tied down as what I mean. And basically, like, there is a regulation there, but it's fairly free in what you can do, and height wise and width wise and whatever, right? And it is the same towards the bottom of the front fairing and this, that, and the other. So look, there's a lot of stuff in my view, that can be exploited. And I heard a figure, and I don't know exactly if this is right, but it's 100,000 either pounds or sterling an hour in wind tunnels.
Yep, it's an expensive sport.
But it's not an expensive sport. It's an expensive accessory to your sport.
Yes, but 78% of the people wanted it. The last.
I didn't see that poll.
Yeah, that was on. As I sent you that thing from 44 Teeth, I think it was 78%.
Well, no, look, let's talk about 44 Teeth, right? He is a great show, right? But he buys all.
I know they don't know aerodynamics. They don't know it. They don't know aerodynamics.
It's not right, and my problem with aero, and it's not. I don't mind wings, but there's so many black holes in this aero. You think testing is expensive? Wait till you get into an aero race. it is fucking unbelievably expensive because you have CFD, which is computer fluid dynamics, and then you have the aero. So you will have your way of testing. And you remember we talked a little bit about this with Scarbs, is like you will have a researcher doing it on CFD. He will say, this could possibly work. They will bring it into a wind tunnel. They will test it in the wind tunnel, and then they'll correlate it on track. Okay? So there's your 3 aero development bits, right? We've only started in the aero phase, and I reckon, and this is just me being conservative, I reckon a good 35 or 40% of a Formula One team's budget is aero. It's aero, CFD, and correlation.
Okay.
So whatever.
When we go to do this for safety and all that sort of thing, and
but it's not safety, Jake. And I'll come back to, and the reason I say it's not
makes the bike handle better, right? So it got to be all that safety.
No, but that's my point, Jake. Right? Rin said it perfectly when he was talking about the Yamaha, and he said, "I tried the old aero, which that they were running, and I tried the new aero." Okay, and he said, I could go into the corner faster on the new aero.
Right.
But he could still go into the corner with the old aero. It was just slower. And all I'm saying is not saying do not innovate, not saying anything.
But if he's going in slower, he's going to. He also said that, but it gave him a slower lap time too.
But Jake, we both agreed on this. None of us will turn around and say, what's the difference between a 1 minute 32 and a 1 minute 32?
Yeah, you and I don't know. We know there's a difference, but people, they look.
No, Jake, but again, my point is, right, you can take safety out of it, right, to a certain degree, because if you're going in with a bike on the limit of either, you're going in with them on the limit of it high aero or low aero. You're still, as a rider, going to take it to, and it's your job as a rider to take it to that. Do you know what I mean? If you keep pushing past low aero and tucking the front and doing this, that's not a dangerous thing because of the bike and the aero. That's the dangerous thing because you as a rider are not riding into the grip that you have. And that's a different thing from safety. That's a behavior. Marc Marquez has this behavior that he will ride through a fucking brick wall.
Right.
And it doesn't matter whether you're... Now, that is not talent. That's a behavior.
Right. Then why? But you know what? When they ran the 800cc bikes, everybody just... The
racing was shit in the 800cc bikes, but it wasn't a crash fest.
Yeah, yes, it was. They were.
Wasn't.
Did
Ducati use the crash because it had no fucking chassis? The Yamaha's pissed it. It wasn't a fucking crash fest. No way was it anywhere near. It was a crash fest. If you were on a fucking Ducati during the 800cc years, yes, you should have bought Johnson & Johnson plasters, shares in them because you would have fucking known it, right?
I've seen, they always called it a crash fest. And they said, we'll never do it again because of that. The problem for me with the 800cc's was, yes, it heightened corner speed, but because it heightened corner speed, it got rid of a lot of racing, right? Because the bikes didn't necessarily have the grunt to come out of the corners, where nowadays you can make some sort of mistake in the middle of the corner. You can come out of the corner side by side with someone, you can have a fucking drag race. Yeah.
I get it.
Then it was everything was momentum. Everything then was momentum.
Everything was momentum. Like, look, I will be very honest, I ride a 600 more so than the 1000 because I enjoy going through the corners faster. It's much more pleasurable, but the heavier bike in slower corners for me is fucking annoying, right? I live on Irish roads. They're long and windy roads. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't get a break. It's, what is it? It's like canyon carving in America is I think what you call it. You know what I mean? Where you're just from one side to the other, to the other, to the other. Very rare that you have a fucking straight road, right?
Yeah, we have the same thing. Pennsylvania, they're all cow passes they paved.
And the 600 for me handles fucking better. Now, if I was to piss off out onto the main roads and this, that, and the other, the 1000 would be much better because I'd be able to use the grunt. But when it comes to, I suppose, to the aero, I read the regulations on aero, and there is very, very little.
No,
And
this
is what scares me.
Simple solution is just put the boxes on each side. I thought that was already done. To be honest with you,
they're limited. They're limited in the width
space on each section, and say you can do what your little heart desires in that section.
You can to a certain degree, right? But they have a box more so to make sure that the aero wings don't actually go outside the sides of the fucking handlebars. Like that's kind of, it is a very, very basic regulation, right? And like if I was the guys in, say, Red Bull and Formula One for KTM and maybe Aston Martin for Honda and this, that, and the other, I'd be fucking like rubbing my leg, because like, remember, an engineer's job is not to build a bike to the regulations. It's to understand, interpret the regulations, and exploit it to the rule book loophole.
They're there to make that bike go around that lap time the best it possibly can.
Exactly. But I can tell you the most dangerous thing that affects MotoGP is not anything to do with regulation changes or whatever. If they do not get a hold of the regulations for aero, we are going to go into an aero war where 100,000 pounds.
I think you're getting over. It
took
10 years to get here.
It didn't take 10 years to get there.
Well, we started 2014 with the credit cards stacked, stapled to the side.
No, look, Jake. Look, if you really want to go that, then it's been 35 years, because the Yamaha 500s used to have wings on the fucking side of them. If you're going to go to that level, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about proper aero that you're going to put onto a bike.
Yeah,
that's only 4 or 5 years. You're talking maybe 4 or 5 years into proper aero.
Even if you look at 4 or 5 years, they really haven't.
So what you mean? So they've discovered ground effect.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? You can see it with Ducati and especially Aprilia. They're really understanding the ground effect and how to exploit that. So are KTM to affect it, but they're a little bit. I don't know. When I look at theirs, some bits of it make sense and some bits of it don't, and there's a lot of and I think this maybe is where Red Bull are going to come in a little bit more.
And racing's closer than it's ever been. So
I disagree with you in that. I would disagree with you that
they don't even have a whole second in the top. It's going a half second in the top 10 of qualifying. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I would disagree with you. I think when you look at it and you take Marc Marquez out of the equation, the race for second was always very close. The race for first, when Marquez was up the top, was not there, right? And now we do not have an alien that is leaps and bounds ahead. Like when you look at how Marquez and Rossi were, it was a race for second majority of the Grand Prix, right? They would take off and they would be pulling 3 or 4 seconds ahead. Even Lorenzo as well would be, and Stoner. They would be 3 or 4 seconds, and then there would be a good race behind them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
We have guys, and we're going back to
But I think now
everybody's fighting back to top 10. We got people fighting.
But I don't necessarily think that's because of bikes, Jake. I think I'll go and put it to this one. I haven't seen as many people win a race, different people win a race in a season in a long time. And that's different manufacturers and different people on different bikes.
Well, we had 9 winners this season. Didn't we? 9? Yeah.
How many on Ducati?
Well, just because they did well.
No, but how many on Ducati?
Oh, Christ, 8. I don't know. 8, no. 8, 9, I don't know. 7.
There's a look. There's a lot of winners, but for me, I think if you look at the racing over the course of it, the only difference between now and
But don't forget, Yamaha
is that
and Honda are in such a damn slump. You know what I mean? They haven't.
But no, but like with a racing, right? Just to go and like we'll put the racing to bed. If it wasn't Marc Marquez or Lorenzo or Rossi or anyone out in front, the racing was fucking brilliant behind him. Very rare did you see a spread out race or whatever. And
we still don't see spread out races. What I'm saying, the racing is great behind the top 10. They're passing each other the whole race.
Yeah, but it's been like that for years, Jake. That's my point. But we didn't necessarily always see it because it was fucking Marquez or Stoner or fucking whatever.
Right. But if we have racing and they're passing each other all the way back to top 10, and they're handling better, right? Why, if it's not broke, why fix it? Why not fix it? And
because I'm telling you, I've read the regulations, and I, as a limited person in knowledge of aero, I can tell you that the major problem coming down for our sport is an aero race that is going to be so fucking expensive, and I mean so fucking expensive, that is actually scary.
I don't think so.
I'm talking you can use a quarter of your budget in 3 months. Easy.
Then use a quarter. If everybody, the fans want it, go for it. And the fans seem to love it.
Jake, that's my point. Like you're going on about trends and fans and whatever. I get it, right? But if you put a fucking big pink elephant on the back of your bike and it started winning, people would think that it's because of the big pink elephant on the back of your fucking bike. And you cannot turn around and say a trend is a reason to do something for a technology point of view, because that's wrong in all levels, right? All I'm saying is I know for a fact 100,000 euros or pounds an hour for a wind tunnel. That will destroy this.
No, it won't.
100% will. 100% will. Also, I did find out during the week, Audi are putting money into Ducati.
I was thinking about Audi putting money into Ducati. I wonder if they're putting money into that. I was going to ask you something because you know the F1 and I do not. Are they putting? Is the F1 going to a new displacement?
F1 has a regulation change coming up in 2020. 2026,
26. I thought it was.
Yeah, they're going to fully 100% synthetic fuel. They're getting rid of the MGH, I think, which is the exhaust one. And manufacturers are lining up.
Now, are they? What's the displacement? What are they running?
1.6 turbo.
1.6 and 6 cylinders.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now I was wondering that, because they're talking about that 850cc deal, the change to 850cc deal, which you talk about expensive. Now that's going to be ungodly expensive. To change the whole freaking, start from scratch. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
You think aero's expensive? Jesus Christ. Now, I wonder if Audi got in there for using its dual purpose for the mule engines.
What do you mean?
The F1, I was reading it where they use mule engines. They use the smaller displacement, like a 2-cylinder engine, because they get the first thing they do is they get the combustion chamber correct. They work on the combustion chamber, and they start with this 2-cylinder engine. And I was wondering if that one correlated into the other. Do you get my drift?
Oh yeah. Well, like it's a very funny system, right? I don't think Audi would have any input into that well, it might do, like in helping it understand the combustion. But it's actually a really weird project. I think it was it Porsche. One of them has the rights an engine, and Porsche wasn't getting in there, and there is a whole lot of mess between what's going on with Audi. But
you know what I'm saying? If you're technically Audi and I'm technically Ducati, and we have the same, or roughly even the same displacement we're working on, it would help both of us out.
But they're not. They won't. They'll like you couldn't work it out with a 1.6 V6.
No, I know, but it would help them out in the mule motor because when they're just working on the combustion because they're only running 2 cylinders.
Yeah. Look, I am very sure Gigi has some fucking thing up his sleeve, and this is why he's pushing hard to get the 850cc.
And you know that got me worked up because guys, that's going to cost a fortune. I mean, I don't see the point in it. Yeah, they can make it a bigger bore, and they can make it just as much horsepower with a bigger bore. And run higher RPMs, but still, it's just a piss pot full of money for nothing.
Yeah, it's just look, I suppose it is what it is. I do believe. Look, okay, this sounds going to sound weird. I do believe I do believe regulation changes every couple of years are good for the sport.
I would say I'll say yeah, it's good for the sport, but I wouldn't go every couple of years. It's too expensive.
Not every couple of years. I think this one, yeah, but I think we're in 7 or 8 years in the current set of regulations. So I do.
Yeah, true. Well,
so I do believe
this way with the economy, we should put that off a little bit.
Look, I think
things aren't good out there right now. Let me tell you.
Yeah, but. Look, I always think with the regulations, on an engineering side point of view, it's great. Do you know what I mean? Because it gives you a different direction, and we've seen it with multiple things where they would have maybe a 5-year life cycle of an engine design. Just say, for instance, and after that, it's just like fucking keeping the lights on because they know they can't develop that engine anymore or that chassis anymore or whatever. So. I do believe having good regulation changes are key. There's obviously something, as I mentioned, about the 850 that fascinates Gigi. KTM are somewhat on board with it.
Does it fascinate him? With me, I always look at it with Dorn and the Dorn and Ducati's ongoing fight over the years. Is he fascinated with it, or does he have a gun to his head?
He is the one that's pushing it.
Yeah, I didn't hear that yet. I heard. I thought he was just.
No, I did a video about it.
Yeah, I have to do it anyway. They're going to give it. They're going to give it to me anyway. They're going to do what they want anyway. So.
No, it is a question that. It is a fair enough question, and it's like I don't think Gigi would be pushing KTM to come in and buy into the regulation if he wasn't bought into it. Do you know what I mean? And he has obviously spotted something or an avenue that he could develop to help it. And also, let's be fair, right? The new concessions, which I disagree with concessions on a fundamental basis anyway, that I think, right, look, if you're brand new, you've never turned a wheel in motorsport or in MotoGP, and every fucking thing, every race for the next 2 years is going to be not just a fucking school day, but it's going to be an eye-opening school day for you, then yes, you deserve a break and you deserve a chance.
And I also believe when you said, I'm not just doing it for a Yamaha guy, that Yamaha has that inline four, and they have to go so far. They have to. I mean, everything has to be changed. I mean, they have to go soup to nuts. That you got to get.
Well, yeah. Look, they're going to go. They're going to go to what we call a zero data, database. So they're going to have nothing in there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So you got to give them a break.
But I'd even be slow to give them a break then, and I'm a Yamaha person. Do you know what I mean? Kind of like
we both. I'm doing it for a sentimental reason. I love to see the inline four still there. You know what I mean? But it's a dead end.
I suppose what kind of pisses me off, I suppose, a small bit about these concessions is they brought in the percentage, and I get it, right? If in F1, for example, you finish first, you get X amount of time in the wind tunnel and CFD and all of this shit, right? And if you finish last, you get plus whatever. So I get it that it's designed to bring people together, right? Now, when I was looking at it, Honda or Yamaha, I think Honda scored 27% or something of the points available to them, right? And when I was reading it and doing it, I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't really make any sense. So they had 4 bikes on the grid all season, and they scored X amount of points, right? And then I was like, okay, well, between Mir and Marquez, both of those riders missed 10 Grand Prix weekends.
Mm-hmm.
So that was 20 races. Okay. And out of that 20 races, it was X amount of points that were not contested by a race rider. Does that make sense?
Right.
It was contested by Iker Lecuona or Bradle or who were never going to score a fucking point
anyway. Right, exactly.
So let's just say, what is it? 30. It's 37 points, isn't it, a weekend if you win, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, for the sprint.
Yes. Or 37 and a half. Comes from a half point, doesn't it? Or did they skip that?
No, it's 37. And so that was out of 370 points. And I don't think Iker Lecuona or Bradle scored many. Right?
Right.
So out of those 370 points, Honda did. But that was because riders were injured or away or fucking whatever, right? But the math at the end of the season doesn't make sense to say this is in your global position of where you scored 27% of the points. And the way I have this is because it's like they were nearly pushing riders not to fucking Joe.
Yeah.
Joe, did you crack a nail? You need to not ride for this weekend.
Yeah, don't ride.
Do you know what I mean? Because overall, it will.
He's out of gas, you know.
So but my point here is like, let's just say, for instance, if they put Mir and Marquez just together, right, and just said, ye did 13 out of or whatever it is races you competed in. This was your average score for this. You didn't compete in these races. This would have been your average score. I wonder, would they have been a group C rather than D?
Yeah, I know. But
Dorna
has been so Honda biased over the years. It's like they're so biased that if this was a mob deal, Espinosa would be floating down the Thames. Okay, that's how bad obvious it is. Okay?
Well, I'm sure he's made many people float down the fucking Thames. Being very honest, that's the way he is.
That whole family setup. You know what I mean? Have you ever seen a corporation set up that way? It's insane. It's just like so blatant.
Yeah, but that's how Formula One was set up.
And they got whatchamacallit. They got convicted and didn't even get fired. They said, "Oh, we'll let them go." Who ever heard of such a thing? I don't care if they do get convicted and then nobody cares. They still fire them, quote unquote. All right, they didn't even do that. It was amazing.
Listen, Jake. Right, there was a sporting organization. I'm not going to say its name in Ireland, right, where the chairperson of that organization wrote into his contract, and I shit you not, that under no circumstances could he be fired. And someone fucking signed it and agreed to it. Millions and millions and millions are missing.
And they have the golden umbrella.
And he turned around and he's like, I don't recall that meeting. I don't recall that meeting. No one could fire. Yeah. So look, those stupidities of things, huh?
Disney did that.
Yeah, no, look, he got caught out at the end, and he was kind of forced to resign. But it took 10 or so years to do that. You know what I mean? But my point is, when you look at how these things run, and like Dorna is run in a very old school way, which was the way it was done before, right?
They're past old school the way they had that set up. I mean, it is. It's set up like it's set up like a friggin' organized.
It's set up. Exactly. It's a dictatorship.
Yeah, it's just, and that's what pisses me off, because they just run it like whatever the rule is whatever we say it is.
Yeah, that to be fair, that has changed slightly in quite a bit. Like, look, the teams have an awful lot more power than they used to have, right? The teams have now realized in the past 8 or 10 years that we are the show. You know what I mean? Without us, there is no show, right? Like,
me, there's no one level more into having a level playing field. If the Chinese come in, I want to see them represented the same as everybody else. I don't care. Now nobody likes the Chinese, but still, I want to see them have the same.
No, it's
chance to win as anybody else.
It's and we were talking a little bit about this earlier, that the sport is now, or the teams are now regulated within the MSMA, right? And that's their biggest, strongest thing. And if you know anything about Formula One, Bernie and Max Mosley was the head of the FIA, and Bernie was the head of FOM, Formula One Management, right? And Bernie would back Max every day of the week, and Max would back Bernie every day of the week. So they had a partnership going on, and they ran the sport the exact same way that Dorna now runs the sport, until such a time that the teams were, and you can go back and you can check on this, but the teams literally put the gun to their head and said, we're not going to sign your next set of regulations, or Concord Agreement is what it was called. We're actually going to go and start up our own racing series. Because, remember this, Jake, right? Of all the power Dorna have, they do not own the technology.
No.
They do not own the teams, and they whatever. And I swear to you, during the 2000, I can't remember, 2008 or 10, when Jenson Button won the championship, I can't remember what year it was, during the Braun Grand Prix years, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Max Mosley and the FIA and Bernie were trying to divide and conquer the teams. Okay? So they were making secret deals, or trying to make secret deals to get one team on side with them. Because the teams are sticking together saying, no, we're not going to sign this agreement, blah, 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 blah. You're earning 3 billion euros in revenue out of it. We're getting €500 million between the lot of us. You're getting 2.5 billion. Do you know what I mean? We want a bigger slice of the cake. And what Bernie and them were doing was going to the teams that were lower on the grid and offering them money, or offering them stuff that they were owed, as long as they would sign the Concord Agreement for the next 3 years. And their view of it is that if we got one, then the rest would crumble, because it's divided them. And they did it, and they got one. And however, Bernie, or one of them, released information or a statement saying that Braun had signed up, or whoever it was, had signed up for the next 3 years and whatever. But in the bottom of the thing for the contract was confidentiality clause. And that if Bernie and them released that Braun had signed this, then the contract was null and void. So while he was going out saying there was all this, by doing that, he actually left the lads off the hook. But it was just a clear example, and this is exactly the same way that Dorna is run. It's run. It is a dictatorship, but the teams now have the power, right? And when we talk,
the one thing that Espinalita has, the gun that he has right now, is that Ducati, KTM, Aprilia, BMW are all had record sales, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of them. Now, and they're taking that sales out of the marketplace, out of the Japanese marketplace, right? They're stealing out of their market share. Are they gonna? They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to leave, because to them, what other thing do they have? I mean, they going, if it work, don't screw with it if it works. You know, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Leave it the way it is.
I think there's two things here. Huh? I think there's two things here still. I think the European brands are not big enough to drive sales on their own without MotoGP, right? And I think MotoGP is not big enough to be able to afford to lose those three brands. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
So they can't lose, like, Aprilia. They'll get on fine, but they won't see. Like MotoGP, while it is expensive, it is a really, really good marketing tool for them. Massive.
And if you look at, when you look at when Suzuki left, Suzuki lost 30% of their sales after they left, right? Instantly. Not talking about anything else, just from that one move, they lost consumer confidence that they lost 30% of their sales.
But you always look at it like that. Look, like that old sales saying, that wins on Sunday sells on Monday. That mentality is still there, right?
But it's not the same as MotoGP. MotoGP is to sell the company. That sells the company as we're a strong company. We're the best engineers. We're the best base. Okay.
But Jake, that goes in complete opposite to what you just said about wings and stuff there a while ago. If people see wings on a winning motorbike, they go, "Oh yeah, he's winning because of the wings," or "I'm buying that because."
And they do. People buy it. They're buying bikes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So wins on Sunday, sells on Monday is still very much there.
Oh yeah. I'm not saying it's not there. I'm just saying in conjunction. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But look, I think, look, I think there's a whole lot of it going on, but I think it will come a time where Dorna, I suppose, with the sport to grow, Dorna is going to be under pressure to make it grow, and like we saw this. I think, and this is just me, I wouldn't be surprised in 8 months' time to see an English-speaking MotoGP Drive to Survive sort of thing coming out. I know we did one in Spanish and whatever.
And they need that. They need to sell the sizzle. Especially
they do. But look, what they seem to be doing is they seem to be copying the ethos of what Formula One have done, and it's only a certain amount of time before you will see what you will see happen, no doubt, is that Dorna will somewhat disappear, or Dorna will be sold, or whatever. So I think that is very much so on the cards. And when that does happen, that's when the change comes in. And at the end of the day, whether a fan likes aero, whether a fan doesn't like aero, it's still their sport, and they should absolutely have their right and stuff to say.
That's what I was talking about with 44 teeth, right? And that especially the Stackhouse or Trackhouse Racing, who was going on and on. Neither one of them know about engineering, right?
Well, no. 44 teeth, like he does have cap on into what he does say, right? And I get that, right? But you remember this. He comes from a very, very different background of most. He can go out and buy a fucking superbike.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He can go out and buy the carbon thing, right? And it's just like, for me, when I look at it, he's buying a bike. I'm not sure if it's because it's pretty, but is it because it's an M1? Just say, for example, I want to ride a BMW M1, or I want to buy one. Do you buy it because it's an M1, or do you buy it because you like it?
Yeah, but the M1 put all the aero on it, and the sales went up 10%.
Yeah. Well, no. I'd love to see that. Hey.
Yeah,
features. What?
Motorcycle road racing technology went up. They put the aero on it, went up 10%. The people love that. They like that technology. They don't reuse it, but they like it.
I'm not saying that, Jake. What I'm just saying is that
They think it's cool. They love seeing it, and
but again, Jake, go back to my thing. If you put a purple or a pink elephant on the back of your motorbike,
right,
and it's on trend because people think, oh, it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just because it's a trend doesn't make it the right thing.
Yeah,
That's
sure
all
it
I've
does.
said.
That gets their ass in the seat. That sells the bike. That gets them on the showroom floor.
100% I would disagree with you in that. So they're coming to see the motorbikes. Don't think so.
They're gonna. They like seeing, but they like seeing
90% of people coming through a gate is not coming to see a motorbike.
What do you think they came for?
The Raiders. See their favorite Raiders race.
Yeah, I don't believe that. They love seeing that tech. What do you think they're looking at F1? People love the tech.
One second now, Jake, right? I can tell you this now.
Yeah, because I don't know F1.
At a race,
right?
If you're a fan in the seat, you're seeing fuck all tech.
Oh yeah, you
ain't seeing fucking shit, right? So my point: people coming through that gate are coming to watch a race, not the tech. The people race. The only thing you can see move on that bike is the rider.
I was gonna say, if anybody wants to but if anybody wants to watch a race, you know what they do? They watch it on television because you can't watch it any better than you see it on television.
Yeah, but you can't hear it.
They want to see that tech. They want to see that.
I remember the days of the V10 Formula One engine, right? Which was 20 years ago.
Yep, time flies.
I would have been about 18, right? And I remember 3 days after coming home from a race, I could still hear the gear change ringing in my ear.
Yep.
You're like,
yeah.
Right? Nothing, even with MotoGP, nothing will beat being there, seeing them brake, hear the engine noises. Because, and for example, that you don't.
That's the years you remember everything. It's just like music. Who was the top
music? No. I still remember my last race. Last race in Catalonia was Rossi. And I remember him coming out, and I still remember it to this day. I can still remember, and this was only a couple of years ago, so it was last race that he was in Petronas, coming out of the second part of the first corner, well, turn 2, and lifting the bike, and he's hitting into third gear, and I could hear the engines stop for a second. Do you know what I mean? In between the gear change, and I could hear it was just like, and it wasn't a quick shift, obviously, it was a seamless, but you could hear the engine note dull because he was the only one on track, and it's something that I'll never forget. It's like, it's very weird that, do you know what I mean, that the engine rev dropped slightly. Do you know what I mean? Now, I was on the other side, so I was on the exhaust side of the track when I was watching this, so I was on the inside of turn 3. Do you know what I mean? When he was going into turn 3. But he changed the gear, and just as he was dropping down, and I heard it, and I was like, I couldn't, and I still can't to this day figure out why did the revs drop, because he was picking the bike up to lean over for the next corner, right? So the engine note should have actually rose because he was going onto the side of the tire. Did you get me?
Yeah.
There's something, and still to this day, I can't figure out what it is, but like, if you're to go to watch a race, you're there to watch the riders race, because you will get fucking nowhere near the technology. Nowhere. The only thing you might get to see is you might get to see last year's bike in this year's colors.
Yeah,
up in the
pinning. What you're saying, as long as it's a Moto 2. If it's MotoGP, that's for all new technology, innovation. That's for all the new stuff.
I would still disagree. Like, it's nothing to do with Moto 2.
That's great. Don't touch Moto 2. Moto 2 should not have any wings or electronics or anything like that.
They do. You know that.
Yeah, they shouldn't. Okay.
There's one team have it. No, but look, again, they designed their fairings, what the rear fairing, with a wing. which is fine. Do you know what I mean? I don't have anything. My only problem is that it is unregulated, and realistically, Rins settled the argument for me personally, 100%. Right? It's down to the rider to roll into a corner as fast as they can get into that corner.
Then
he can go in faster with. What's that?
But what's he going to pick?
Huh?
When he's going up for a race, which one does he pick?
But it doesn't matter. Like, are you telling me Lewis Hamilton and all of those pick which front wing they run, or what design that? No, they don't. They run what's fastest on the car.
That's
what
I mean.
Given to them.
Yeah,
but that's my point. It makes no difference. It should not make any difference to racing or safety or anything like that. If they're given this one, this is the front aero that you have, right? As fast as you can. This is the front aero that you have that we spent $3.5 million developing. Run it this way. Do you know what I mean? That's my point. A rider's on safety, a rider should ride to the absolute limit of that bike can ride. But if he's constantly losing the front end, like I'll put it to you this way. Fabio,
but the wing is making the front end grab. It's giving it more traction, not less.
It's giving it more traction, yeah, because it's unregulated. That's my point. There is no aero regulations, very little within that. So realistically, you could
traction is good.
You could. It's terrible because there's so much open shit that, in my view,
if you're on that bike, traction is good.
I'm not talking about the rider at all, Jake. I'm talking more so about regulations and how. For me, it's a fucking Pandora's box that they're going to open, and if they open that box and it's unregulated, like I've seen the shit the Formula One teams get up to, like anything from the traction control, third braking, F ducts, all of this stuff. What was the one that Mercedes did, where you pull the steering wheel back? Your steering wheel actually moved right backwards.
That's talking apples and oranges.
Well, no, you're not, Jake. And this is the point where you are completely missing. And you really need to get up to speed on this. It's the engineers that are behind these things, and these are more and more coming into Formula One. And it's not about, because there's lack of a regulation there, these guys will be free to do whatever the fuck that they want to do. And it is great for racing. But the more that a bike becomes technically superior, the less the rider is involved in it.
Well,
and at the end of the day,
we're still We're still passing. Like I said, back to top 10. People are happy.
But they were always passing, Jake. They were always passing. Show me a year where bikes were not passing.
But yeah, right, exactly. Well, I'm saying, but why take it off if people want it?
But it's not, no. Like you're going about a poll about people that, in my view, is not a valid poll, right? You're talking about 44T put out a poll and said 78% of people want it.
No, it's just that I'm just saying, giving you one example.
But that's not my point. My point on aero, Jake, is I don't dislike aero. I just want to make sure that aero does not become the dominant factor in a motorbike.
Oh, I can see that. I can see that.
But it is, and B Sport commented.
Yeah, we're not even close to that, man. We're not close to that.
We are so close to it because there's no regulation around what they can and cannot do. That's my point, Jake.
All you have to do is, like I said, make out a spot. But we have X amount of.
You're sounding like fucking Dorna now in your fucking old school thinking of the, like, you have to go and look at even what KTM were doing on the skin of their bike in the winter test.
But with the nipples,
no one has seen this.
Yeah, the nipples on the bike, yeah.
Golf ball.
The golf ball nipples, yeah. So
what do they do?
That makes the air. It makes the air go over makes the air go over better at a certain speed. It gives it less friction.
Yeah, and that's a year old.
Okay.
If you look at a KTM, it's not painted in smooth paint; it's painted in golf ball paint.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? And for me, when I'm looking at that, I'm like going, lads, come on, for fuck's sake. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but I mean, it's neat. People like it. It's cool.
No one even fucking noticed it, Jake. No
I
one.
do.
I can guarantee you. I'll ask our people who watch this. Have you noticed that the KTM's were painted in golf ball paint?
Mm-hmm.
And I can guarantee you, there's very little people said yes.
So we're going to have regulations.
No, my point is that there's things
it has
there's
to be
things.
noticeable. You know what I mean? But it has to be noticeable.
No, it's not that. No, and it's not. It's wrong. It's just like you can't just turn around and say within this box you cannot do anything.
But what I'm saying is that there's always going to
like
be
that.
regulations.
Like this is not fucking NASCAR, right? This is not NASCAR where they take.
I agree. It has to be regulated somewhat, but I think it's just going overboard on getting
no. I'm going overboard because I can see what Formula One technicians have done, or I wouldn't call them technicians because that's actually aerodynamicists and engineers have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And their fundamental way is not building a car, as I said earlier, to regulations. It's building a car that's within regulations but exploits loopholes. And the FIA even came out this thing, right? They went on a multi-million euro thing to change the regulations for 2022 or whatever it was. And they left loopholes because all they wanted to do was clean up the air. No, sorry. They wanted to get rid of dirty air behind the cars to allow them pass, right? But they forgot a couple of loopholes in it, and fucking that. Like that. Someone realized actually there's nothing here in the bottom end of the front wing that you can do, and you can turn the air out, so it'll go out past the wheels, create vortexes, and create dirty air behind your car. So the person behind you is fucked. And it's just mind-bogglingly crit. And I mean, Jake, these things are less than the size of that. Now, how many of those could you fit in a motorbike? Loads.
2, but
no, that's not even.
What on there is active suspension.
Not even an inch and a half.
It should have never been taken off in the first place.
Which?
Active suspension.
Well, let me see. Look, that's the other side of the coin. Like, I saw active suspension in its full prime in the I want to say Frank Williams F14B car. David Coulthard was driving it, and he had the CCVT gearbox in it, right? Okay. And all he had to do was hold his foot flat down around Silverstone. Right? The car knew by GPS where it was. Right? So it was coming up into Copse Corner, which was one of the most ferocious corners in Formula One racing, right? Mm-hmm. He kept the foot in. The gearbox automatically slowed the car down, or the engine automatically slowed slightly. The car pitched itself for the corner, and he fucking drove around that son of a bitch flat out.
But how do you compare a car which is flat? It's 5 foot
it's
wide. It has tires this wide, 3 foot. They have 3 foot tires on the back.
They don't.
Well, how 2 foot tires? How wide are the tires in the back of a Formula One car?
At that stage, though, they were less than 12 inches. So, do you know what I mean? But no, still, my point here, Jake, is I get what you're saying, right? And active suspension, but again, for me, it's a rider aid.
Yeah, but my thing is, we're getting so fast. We're getting to be so fast that we need rider aids. Their hand is only so fast.
It's the braking control. It's to do with braking. Do you know what I mean?
They're only so fast. And I was a boxer. And I've seen some mighty fast hands, but we're running out of speed, hand speed. And I know timing beats speed. If there are any boxers out there, I can tell you. But still, we're running out of hand.
No, but look, I get you. I agree that it may help in safety, but then I don't know. I would be very against that. Like, if the bike goes out of sync, it's a big risk to take.
No, I get
especially it. On a motorbike.
Anything if it breaks at this point,
Yeah,
I guess so fast. If anything breaks, we're screwed. Hey, question. I read this once. It was a one-liner. Or I don't know if it's right or wrong, but it was a whisper type of thing. Are they making the tires wider for 2027, the front tire? Are they allowing a wider
2024?
tire?
No.
It's a 20. They said it was, I forget if it said 24, 27. Are they allowing a wider front tire?
No, they did test the 2024 compounds in Valencia this year. But
Well, I figure they're testing new compounds, but did they that tire be wider?
I didn't hear anything of it. I don't know why they would do that.
Yeah, I was wondering myself.
No, haven't heard anything about that.
It's one of the things, like when you say Aero, will Aero allow a wider tire?
Well, no, look, Aero is causing a lot of the tire pressure problems. All right.
Right. But now you put a bigger tire, it can take more pressure.
Not necessarily, no. It can probably hinder it actually a little bit more.
No. I'm saying it can take more downward pressure, the wider tire.
No, that doesn't make sense either, because like it's the sidewall of the tire that needs to be looked at. You know what I mean? And whether if you have a wider tire with the same amount, like if you can imagine on a normal road tire where maybe for a few seconds every now and then it's under high braking force.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could say, a wider tire may help you. But in MotoGP, the fact that there could be 6 or 7 high velocity break points, I'm not sure it would. Do you know what I mean? I think.
No, I don't know. And it has more, and you'd have more reciprocating. More
mass.
Yeah.
It would be heavier.
Right.
Gyroscopic, yeah. So like it would make the bikes a little bit harder to turn, I suppose.
Right.
But look, it's, I suppose the 6-1, like if it's the same for everyone, that's fine, But
and you have more grip going around a corner. So
yeah, well, look, for me, I'd love to have a tire war. Do you know what I mean? I think there's nothing better than a fucking.
Yeah, you remember the old tire wars too, right?
Yeah, and like for me,
the tire war was, honestly, it was great for technology, which Michelin's still a good tire company, but it seemed like if you picked the wrong side of the fence, you had Dunlop or Michelin, right? And say Michelin was the best tire that year, and you picked Dunlop, your season was done. You were
still love a tire war. Do you know what I mean? Or I still love it, the fact that that you could have 3 tire companies and it's individual races.
And then you didn't have people. That's when they really had people building the bike to the rider. Remember, build the bike to the rider, and then the tire company would come in and build the tire to the rider.
Yep.
Today, people don't realize they build that bike to the tire, and then the adjustments come with the settings. It's just you're just doing settings for the.
Well, look, and I think that's pretty clear for people. Do you know what I mean? Like you look at.
Now they still think it's they're building the bike to that specific rider.
No, and look, that's not. Look, it's pretty clear with Jorge Martin finding the GP23 setting, Di Gianantonio finding the GP22 setting. Do you know what I mean? They found settings and they didn't change the bike off of that, regardless of the track. They didn't move it in, they didn't move it out, they didn't stiffen the suspension, they didn't. Do you know what I mean? They were literally riding the same fucking bike.
No, I know, I agree. I know what you're saying. Right.
Do you know what I mean? And they found the setting that works for them. Yeah, and I think it's been pretty eventful year. I think there's still a lot more to come within the regulations and the testing, the regulation for 2027.
I really don't want that 850 rule coming around. That's just a ton of waste of money.
It is, but look, it's there has to be a logic.
Especially now, I understand what you're saying. It shake up the mold a little bit, but now with especially the Japanese, they're really getting their ass kicked in sales. And the Japanese, their market's getting torn apart.
Yeah, but look, I would look at it this way, right? So we know the Japanese are in trouble. Like I've kind of gone on the record and said this straight out, right? That for the next 2 years, the pressure is mostly on Yamaha and Honda.
I'm not talking about racing. I'm talking about physical sales at the showroom.
I know. But my point here is that if Yamaha and Honda don't develop, don't get the bike to where it's going to be, then come back to the wins on Sunday, sells on Monday scenario. Do you know what I mean? If they're still tail end Charlies in 2 years' time, realistically, their bike sales aren't going to improve anyway. Do you know what I mean? So
it's gotten to the point where people are coming in, right? Like I said, they win all the Europeans win all the tests and all the comparisons, but people are coming in and going, that Honda CBR's RRR costs $25,000. Now, for that much money, I can buy into a premium brand, and the European brands are considered premium brands, and they buy the premium brand. They buy a European. They're killing them because they're, like I said, they're doing record sales, and now they don't sell enough to beat them up. As far as it's not killing them because they don't sell enough bikes. Ducati only sells 60,000 bikes. Okay, so
I rode last Tuesday. Mm-hmm. I rode a CBR 1000 RR just for 10 minutes.
The RR, the double R.
The RR, double R, yeah.
Yeah, that was a good bike.
It's not bad.
Yeah, the triple R.
A little bit boring.
The triple R is the triple R is a lemon. That thing, it is the overheating problem. It's unbelievable. And the ECU problem, and they're a mess. You know what I mean? Like, folks, watch your ass. Three of them are blown up on the side of the road. And the brochure, but the killer of the China is the Chinese are coming, and the Chinese are breaking through that $7,000, $6,000 mark. Now, I would never buy one, right? I don't. It better be more than $1,000 difference to buy a Chinese bike. It better be half.
Look. As I said, I just had a brief ride on the CBR. She didn't have the electronic suspension, but I don't know. I just thought it was. Look, I'll be very honest with you, right? The only difference that I found between that and the R6 that I arrived up on was that there was a digital screen. That's really the only.
But you have what year? You have an S1000 or BMW.
2010, yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice bike. I mean, that's all ready to go, and you pull it out.
Yeah, but I also have an R6, which I absolutely adore.
You adore your R6, yeah.
She's 2008, so she's the last year.
Yeah.
Of the free. Well, no, the EC doesn't really matter now, but she was the last year of the free from Euro cap fucking regulations, right? So she breathes in and she breathes out well.
Hey, and by the way, it's the last years before they start cutting things back because of the economic crush that they had.
She has a full titanium Akrapovic system. She has a BMC air filter intake race, so it's a straight through thing. Fucking thing makes a lot of noise, and then she's fully she's fully super sport. She's BSB full super sport spec engine in her, tuned by a guy called Mike Hemingway, who has about 7 or 8 TT race win engines. He's ex-Aprilia MotoGP as well, so he does all my 2-strokes as well. So she's trying out, I think, she's trying out 141 brake horsepower from at the rear wheel is what she throws out. Now the BMW and the R1 are in the region of about 190 brake horsepower, but they're much heavier, so heavy. Do you know what I mean? Compared to the R6, do you know what I mean? And it's just, I enjoy riding the R6 more because I can push it through the bends and it's not as hard to.
2008, 2000. It's not much heavier. No, it's a couple of years, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, that you'll feel it an awful lot more when you're riding. Now, saying that, right, on the R6, the fastest time that I set down my country road home,
right,
was on a full race tuned RS, pretty RS 250. And she had only she had 90 brake horsepower.
Yeah, well, that's a whole new ball game. You know that. Yeah. I mean, that's apples and oranges, folks. If you get off on one and you get off on the other, you know you've got a different bike. You know, one's a race bike, one's a street bike. I don't care how much you tune. And it's amazing that people don't know that, or don't realize because they don't have the opportunity. When you tune that bike, they run so much. The 4-strokes, I'm saying, when they run that bike and you tune that your R6, they run so much better when it's tuned.
Yeah, she it's actually quite funny because like she turns over at 2,500 RPM. Do you know what I mean? So she idles at that. I have the gearbox. So this guy he's real old school. So like when he's holding out the cylinders and all of that, like it's nearly all done by hand because obviously he has a machine for holding the cylinders, but for the gearbox alone, so each tooth in the gearbox when they're cast, they're cast. So there's like little bumps within them. So like he's filed every single tooth in my gearbox so that it's pure smooth. So like technically I don't even need a quick shift on it. Do you know what I mean? I have it because protect the gearbox.
I will use my clutch till the day I die. I just can't bring myself to use a quick shifter. I can't
show something. I ride race shift, so I find it handy to have the quick shift in race shift.
Ah, okay. And you know what's weird? Until you said it, I don't realize that I get on the bike from the left-hand side. I can't get on it from the right.
Yeah. Well, most people can because the right side of the bike is slightly higher than the left because of the stand. But
that shouldn't bother me.
Oh, well, it would. That happened
at the left. You know what I mean?
As a missus would always say, that extra half inch is important. You know.
Yeah.
But it's for me. I'd be very conscious when I get on the bike. It's those things, but I don't normally like electronics on a bike. Do you know what I mean? I like to because I had. People would know. Like I used to have a full Bazaz system on it, so it was auto. It would auto tune the EC or the bike when going. I had the quick shifter, had the throttle. I could change between the maps. I could turn on and off the traction control, and I actually found it more fucking annoying than anything else, right? Because when I wanted power, it wasn't giving me the power I wanted. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of like, oh no, we think it's like, fuck off, give it to me. Do you know what I mean? That's the. And as a rider, I found it very, very frustrating. And the only reason I put the quick shifter on, was mainly just to make sure I protect the gearbox. He'll kill me for saying this now, but Mike is getting old, so I don't know how many more engines and gearboxes I'm going to get out of him. And I'm sure, and I'm very fucking sure, the money that he charges me to do the gearboxes will go up tenfold if I ask people to do the same thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, God, yes.
So look, no, I would be very.
You'll have to go to get it. Your next bike will have to be to match that. Would have to be an MV F3RR. That would be about the match.
I actually went the place where I was on when I had a spin off the Honda. There was an F4. I think it's probably my first time seeing an F4 in the flesh.
Oh.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. No, it was battered. It didn't look in the best condition. Yeah. But like he was trying to sell it for 15,500 or something. I was like, yeah,
you got to
see but it's no, look, and I think it's proper season now to try and get out over Christmas and ride around. Everyone will have some time off and just chill.
Buy another bike, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Give yourself a Christmas present. Buy yourself a bike.
I know, yeah.
Hey, and you know what's coming out with the nice bikes, and they don't sell that one. Triumph. But if people are looking at Triumph and then they're starting to look at Royal Enfields and comparing the two, it's apples and oranges, folks. One's made quality, like a Triumph, and the Royal Enfields, we're going to get mail on this, they're just not made with good metal. You know, the metallurgy is shit.
I rode this. I shit you not, right? I rode a Royal Enfield in India, in Bangalore, in India, down the fucking road in one of the main built-up areas. I was working over there for a couple of weeks. I was talking to a fella, and this is where I got an understanding. A lot of these guys, like, they were asking me, Joe, do you ride bikes? And I was like, yes. And so, what bikes do you have? And I was like, a Yamaha R6, R1, brilliant. And like, you could see the shock on their face, like, for actually having a genuine Yamaha fucking bike or whatever, right? And I was like, well, what you ride? And he's like, a Royal Enfield. I was like, really? What? As in thinking that it was old school Royal Enfield.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we got down there, and let's just say it was nothing like I thought it was going to be. It was a brand new and excellent. I remember tapping on the side of the tank or whatever, and it was like very tin canny sound. And I asked him, was there petrol? And I said, could I take it for a ride? And if you do know India, there's a couple of things you need to realize about India. Like, firstly, if you're on the bus and you come to your bus stop, the bus doesn't stop. It slows down and you jump off.
Oh, really?
Or you jump on. Yeah, it doesn't fucking stop, right? Anyone can go any fucking direction on the road that they want to. So just because majority of people are coming down the road does not mean that you can't go fucking up that road on the same side that they're coming down. And I said to man, I was like, can I take it for a spin? He's like, are you sure you want it? I actually have it on a GoPro. I must try and find it. Driving down the fucking street in Bangalore. Yeah. And everyone was like, are you fucking crazy?
My pharmacist, I said, if I pulled in with my Ducati, and he goes, we don't have Ducatis in because I watch. He goes, I've heard about them. I goes, we don't have them in India. You won't find one. Yeah, BMW, you won't find any of those on the street. You know.
Yeah.
But by the way, when I say Royal Enfield, so we don't get too much hate mail, they are dependable. You hit the button, it starts every time. Okay, they're very simple bikes. All right, but like I said, the metal is crap, so it'll start to rust. All right, the cylinders will wear. You know what I mean?
But
they wear out. They don't.
I think but look, I think they're
not durable. They're dependable.
Yeah, I think that if there's a very different, you can get I suppose my point here is, like, if you look at a Royal Enfield that you would purchase in mainland Europe would be very different to a Royal Enfield that you would purchase in India or China or one of these. It's 100% definitely, because when I did do it, I came back and I was like, you know, that was kind of like, it was okay bike, don't get me wrong, but I asked a man how much he paid for it, and he paid something like, it's like £3,000, or not £3,000 or €3,000 in the equivalent, and I was like, that's very, very cheap for one of those bikes. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And then there's actually there is Royal Enfield India, and there's Royal Enfield the rest of the world. So that's the other side of it, as well as that. And it's just like KTMs are made in China. They're made by another manufacturer. They're not made by KTM directly. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay, to a specification, but not to maybe to the same standards.
They had QJ or somebody bought into them, a big chunk into them, but I think they bought themselves back. They bought their shares back.
Who? KTM?
Yeah.
No, they have a strategic partnership with someone in China, I believe, that sell the bikes and mass produce the bikes over there, for the Chinese marketplace.
Oh, I thought that they did that, and then they bought them back out. Okay.
No, still there.
The 2013 deal that they had.
Huh?
It was 2013. They had bought.
Yeah.
They had sold it, but I thought they bought that back. Anyhow, I stand corrected. Then they still have it. Then
This is damage. Yeah. So
they're actually have another road bike coming out. An 880. Did you see that?
no.
Yeah. The CF Moto. They have a sport bike.
Right. Okay.
Sweet looking piece. I mean, unbelievable. It's like a CF25 or something like that.
Right.
And it's supposed to be all KTM. So, but like I said, again, with me, I would not pay the. I am not going to I wouldn't stick my neck out for the first. I don't even buy the first year of a bike that comes out. You know what I'm saying? Like the first year.
Yeah. Well, if that's the norm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the norm because that's the bike with normally all the problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, if you ever want to know what happened with the Yamaha and the R1 with the crank problem, well, I give them a pass on that. They had R1. They were building the R1. They went to that cross plane crank. Now, a cross plane crank does not have it's not as well balanced as a 180 degree crank, right?
Yeah.
And they did that in 2008, and it was fine in 2008 because it had 180 horsepower. Or 2007, 2000, yeah. It was, when did they come out with the cross-plane crank? 2006? Something like that? It came out before. And it had 180 horsepower when it came out with the cross-plane crank. I think it was 2006 or 2007. Well, anyhow, no, I'm right. 2008 it came out. That's right.
Crossplane, yeah,
2008. Now, at 180 horsepower, it was fine to have it not balanced as well. Okay.
Yeah.
And here comes the great, economic boom or bust, right? So nobody wanted to put the money into rechecking it again for, through its paces at 200 horsepower, and have the cross-plane crank. They put it out. It was one of them, gutsy calls like, see how big our balls are. We'll just put it out that way. And it failed at the 200 horsepower. That's what happened. If it wasn't for the economic crash, right, they wouldn't have had the problem.
So just wanted to I get you. So there's an Indian, and I searched the bike that I rode in India, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's Royal Enfield Hunter 350. Was the bike?
350, yeah, I think that's their baseline bike.
And it was 149,900 rupees, which is like 1,600 quid. So,
really?
So that Royal Enfield that I rode over there is definitely not a legitimate. It is a legitimate, but it's not made to the same standard as you would buy a Royal Enfield.
Really? But what year was that?
That would have been about 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay, 4 or 5 years ago, they were like $3,000 or $3,500 here.
Yeah, so they're now 6,000 and odd. So anyway, radio. I suppose we'll wrap it up there this week. We will be back on Monday. We will do something for Christmas Day to give you something to listen to get away from. I was going to say wife and kids and all of that, but we do have some female listeners, check. So get away from the husbands, or get away from the wives, or the children, or whatever it is.
Hey, write down if you mind us talking about bikes. We went off track there a little bit with the, we were just talking like 40-14. I mean,
yeah. Anyway, right, we'll wrap it up there for this week, and thank you again, Jakey Poo.
No problem,
and we will see you soon.
Take care, folks. Have a good holiday. I mean that.